Welcome, everyone. So excited to have you here. If you're watching live, welcome, and please put your questions in the chat box. If you're watching on the replay, then please let me know your questions via email or message or Instagram or TikTok or all of the things that I'm available on. So today we're here to talk all about hormones, your hormonal roller coaster that I know so many people go through on a daily basis because I see all of you in my clinic. So let's get started. So did you know that the pill does not balance your hormones or regulate your period? Have you heard that one before? Who's heard that? Put it in the chat box if you've heard that line come from people's mouths before. I know I literally hear it every day of my life. Anyway, that my clients have been saying anyway, that they get told. And I'm just the bearer of the news that it doesn't. Did you know that low iron can cause heavy bleeding? So a lot of people think this is the opposite way around. Heavy bleeding causes low iron, and it definitely can, but this one is something that I see really commonly with my clients. And when we correct the low iron, that can actually stop the heavy bleeding happening with the periods. Did you know that 90% of your serotonin, which is your happy hormone, is made in the gut? And did you know that your serotonin is what makes your melatonin? And what's your melatonin? Your sleep hormone. So this is why we'll be talking tonight about how your gut health is so important for your hormones. So serotonin and melatonin is actually a hormone. And so, I think a lot of people think that it's just estrogen and progesterone and maybe testosterone that people would think is your hormones, but there's so many other things in your body that can be going on. And there's not, if we've got a sleep problem, it's not just because you have the wrong pillow. There's so many different reasons why this can be going on, which is why we kind of need to go into depth with your health and to figure out what's actually happening. So wait until the end because I do have a gift for you for attending. And so, warning, I do get super excited about talking about hormones, and sometimes I can speak really fast. So make sure to have a pen and paper to make notes because this can help you to absorb more. So I heard this cool fact that when you are just listening, you only absorb something like 30% of what the person's saying, maybe even less. And then when you write things down, you absorb up to like 60% of what the person's saying. And when you ask questions and you're actually involved in the conversation, you absorb so much more of the information. And, if there's something that you're wondering, there's probably other people who are watching this who are wondering the same thing. I feel like that's such a high school thing to say, but it's so true. So yeah, please write them in the chat box, but we'll kind of get going and I've got lots to cover. So I am Ellen, I'm a naturopath. I've worked with lots of people all over the world. This is my dog and he may show up at the door at any time. So I work with women to overcome hormonal imbalances of all shapes and sizes. And this can include anything from literally, I have no idea what's going on with my hormones, people who have a diagnosis of PCOS, endometriosis, perimenopause, all of these different things. And I like to educate and empower people to actually understand what's going on with their health so that they can make the right changes. So who wishes that they could just ditch their periods and their hormones altogether? So what if I could explain to you today why your hormones are something to celebrate rather than to wish away? Would that be nice? Have you ever actually said this line to yourself? Like, periods suck. I hate being a female. I hate getting my period. Write in the chat box. Yep. Some people are saying yes. So true. I used to say that. Well, actually, I never used to get my period. That's why I didn't actually say this. So I was like, cool, I don't even have to worry about that. And it was so bad. And, then I just couldn't even be bothered to worry about what's going on with my periods because I wasn't getting them. And I just thought it was convenient. Like this was in my early days before I knew any of this stuff. So tonight you're going to learn my top 5 secrets to getting your hormone roller coaster under control. So who is excited? I am. Okay, so let's first off look at a case study. So this is one of my clients' case studies, who I asked if it was okay with her to share her initial symptom list, but we're going to call her by an alias name called Katie. So she's a 20-year-old female and she works as a nurse. And so the main things that she was struggling with when she first came to see me was irregular cycles. So her cycles, she was having them every 2 or 3 months. Then she'd randomly get one every 2 weeks. So it was just all over the shop. She was waking up feeling really tired, bloating, reflux, getting acne, jawline acne, some on her chest as well, thinning of the hair, feeling super emotional, having that PMS, crying, eating chocolate, all of that type of stuff that just feels totally out of control. Felt like something was missing from her life. She'd tried everything. She'd been to the doctors, she'd been to specialists, she'd tried supplements online, all of these things, but nothing was working. And she was on the pill before, but it made her feel crazy. And since she stopped that, her acne has come back. So this is a really, really common picture that I see in people this age. And it's really interesting. I see a lot of nurses and I see a lot of teachers and a lot of just young professionals who are in that kind of burnout mode as well. So write in the chat box if any of these symptoms are things that you have experienced in the past or if you are experiencing them now. I would love to know. So oh yeah, cool. Some people are saying yes. So Katie usually eats toast, 2 coffees, wrap, meat and veg, chocolate and biscuits. Pretty standard diet. But have you ever heard the standard American diet, which is basically this, is shortened to SAD diet. So when we think about that, we really need to look at optimizing this food. And we'll kind of be talking about that a little bit during tonight as well. She would do HIIT workouts for 45 minutes, 6 days a week. And the doctor recommended for her to go back on the pill to get a regular period or go on the Mirena and to start on an antidepressant. So those were her symptoms again: irregular cycles, fatigue, the breakouts, super emotional, crying, low mood, all of the above. So like I said, by now you probably would have picked up on some similarities with yourself or someone around you. So sometimes people attend these webinars to be helping other people around them, or as you start to listen to these lists of things, you can think like, oh yeah, that's my sister. Oh yeah, that's my friend. And it's really interesting because a lot of my clients, I actually end up seeing their sisters, their friends, their neighbor, their work friends. It's really common that I just get a whole clump of people. Like I have groups of people over in Perth, in Adelaide, in Tassie, over in the US. It's really kind of cool because then they get to be on the journey together as well. Bianca just said, oh my God, it was me when I came to see you last year and I was doing CrossFit, coffee and wraps. Yeah. So now my naturopathic detective work starts. So I put on my little hat and sunglasses and get my detective work out. So remember, the body is always trying to protect us, and symptoms are a call out for help. So think about that. It's kind of like when we roll our ankle and our ankle swells up and the inflammation is happening. The puffiness, the fluid, all the white blood cells are going to that site, all of the red blood cells. And this is what is helping to protect. So if we just go and reduce that inflammation straight away, it's not always the best idea. So that's why treatment needs to be done in the right order. Sometimes I see people come to me and they've taken some of the right things and the right herbs, but it just hasn't been done in the right order. And that's when it just doesn't work long term, definitely. So, like I said, we're doing the top 5 secrets to get you off your hormone roller coaster. So first we need to debunk the birth control because I just see so many people going on and off, on and off, on it, off it, and then everything goes to crap, and then you go back on it, and then everything's worse. So I just wanted to debunk some of the myths about it. So the pill does not actually regulate your cycle. The pill actually just shuts down your ovulation, shuts down your hormones. The pill is not natural hormones. It's actually synthetic progesterone, which is actually called progestin, which doesn't have the same effects that the natural progesterone has. So this is really important to understand how the pill actually works, because if we're just thinking that it's regulating our cycle and it's natural hormones, this is just so not the case. The pill changes the sebum levels, meaning the oil on your skin. And so this means that's why it can help with acne, but that's why when you come off the pill, your acne can come back, because all those oils are not regulated at all. And so I really want you to understand that there's a huge list of side effects of being on contraception, whether it's birth control pill, whether it's the Mirena, whether it's the Implanon, whether it's the Depo shot. All of these things have lists of side effects. And a lot of the time we don't get told about this when we're put on them initially. And a lot of the problems can actually be stemming from that. So it's important to understand that and decide, what your options are in terms of that. So has anyone felt low mood when they've been on the pill or the Mirena? Write in the chat if you have. I definitely did when I was on the pill. I just felt like pretty flat. I felt like nothing would really be that exciting. I just felt myself just kind of low grade. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm like super high energy and bubbly and all of this in normal everyday life. But research has found that women on hormonal contraception, so this includes the pill and the Mirena, are 50% more likely to be diagnosed with depression 6 months later after starting it, compared to those who were not on the hormonal contraceptives. So this is a pretty big percentage. And I don't think that this is spoken about enough. So if this is happening for you or someone that you know, and you can see the correlation of what's been happening with when they started the birth control to when, within that 6 months. But it can also, the research also showed that it can happen for even years later. So after you stop taking that contraception, it can actually affect your mood for years later. So really important to do the healing after you do come off the contraception. So this is a little chart that I wanted to show you to say what your normal cycle looks like with all of these hormonal changes. So you can see your estrogen is the orange one going up and then going, a little bit up in the second phase. Then you can see the progesterone, which is the purple one, that's rising in the second half of that cycle. And then you can see down the bottom, you can see on the birth control pill. Can everyone see this chart okay? Did that come out clear? Can you just write yes in the chat box if that's okay? So you can see when you're on the birth control, thank you. When you're on the birth control, this is just flatlining your FSH and LH, which is helping your ovulation. So obviously we don't ovulate when we're on the pill. but it's also flatlining a lot of this. Like you can see all of these peaks are going up to 250 up in the top section in your normal cycle. But when we're on birth control, it's like nothing, 25, which is just so minimal. Not, your hormones hardly ever get down to that level in a normal cycle. Plus, I had to edit this if you can't see it right. You can see my dodgy little thing here, but it's not actually progesterone that we're measuring here. It's actually progestin. And this is the synthetic form of the progesterone. So this is a good one to screenshot if you want to read about this more, because the cycle changes are so important, which we'll be talking more about later, and how you can actually use your hormonal cycle to your advantage, which is really cool. So what if I don't want to get pregnant, but I don't want to be on the pill or the Mirena? So the temp drop is my favorite thing at the moment. I've been using it myself and I find it to be super effective. And so basically it's this little band here and it helps you to do your basal body temperature charting. So if you didn't know, your basal body temperature actually changes dramatically when you ovulate. So you can see in this graph here, the ovulation happened when the peak happened. When the peak went up mid-cycle, this is the ovulation. So you can only get pregnant for 5 days before that ovulation date. And you can't get pregnant at the other times of the month. But the trick is you have to know when you're ovulating. That's the trick. So not everyone ovulates on day 14. Some people can ovulate on day 10. Some people can ovulate on day 16. So it's important to know for fertility purposes or for preventing pregnancies as well. And if you do it right, if you use this device, it's going to be super accurate. And so they are having a sale. So take a screenshot of this. They're having a sale until the 6th of September. Oh, I made a spelling mistake. Sorry. So you can use this code and that will get you the discount. And I just highly recommend this. I think it's a great tool to have, whether you're wanting to prevent pregnancy or whether you're just literally wanting to get back in tune with your cycle, which I think is a really nice thing to do. So that's my rant about temp drop. I love it. Number 2 secret is to get all of these bloods done. So they're not all bloods. There's one urine test actually. So getting your bloods done is super important. And I think that a lot of people don't do it often enough because I don't know why. I think we probably avoid going to the doctor and we avoid having to get blood tests. It's obviously not overly fun, but getting your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, free testosterone, make sure it's that one, not just normal testosterone, not the same. SHBG, which is one that you can test if you need to see if something's imbalanced after you come off the pill. Your insulin, your glucose, super important. Your zinc levels, iron studies, B12, copper, all of those nutrients are really, really important because if you have, like I said at the start, if you have low iron, that can lead to heavy bleeds. Heavy bleeds can cause low iron as well. If you don't eat red meat, then you have to get your B12 checked because you can't get B12 any other way. And you need to be taking the right forms of all of these nutrients. And you can't just assume that you're iron deficient. If you're fatigued and, okay, my mom was iron deficient, my sister is, it doesn't mean that you are. And just taking one iron tablet every now and then, it's not going to do anything. And you can cause real damage to your body if you don't correct those iron levels and the B12 levels. So it's super duper important. It's not just a little fun thing to do. Copper levels really important as well. Copper is something that you can pick up in, sometimes it's important to rule out that it's not too high because things like copper pipes, if you do have the copper IUD, this is something that it's not 100% of the time that it can cause copper toxicity, but it potentially can. Looking at your thyroid function is important too. Full thyroid function, not just your TSH. So if you've just done your TSH and that's fine, it doesn't mean that your thyroid is fine. So I'm just going to write in the chat, this is the ones that you should get done, plus your thyroid antibodies is really important. So TSH, T4, T3, and thyroid antibodies, really important. Urinary iodine is important because iodine helps your progesterone and your thyroid function. So urinary iodine is really important. You should get our iodine through our soil, but because our soil is so rubbish and we've just overfarmed and not looked after it, we don't get our iodine through our root vegetables anymore. And people rarely eat enough seafood or seaweed to be getting an adequate amount. So I would say like 90% of people that I test for iodine are deficient. And I test most of my clients. So really important to get that one done. Vitamin D, I think it's like 1 in 3 Australians are vitamin D deficient. I'm not sure about other areas of the world, but definitely where we are. So, we're like in a sunny place and iron deficient, vitamin D deficient. It's crazy. So when you get your bloods done, always ask for a copy because your blood test ranges should be looked at functionally and it shouldn't be just within the ranges on the blood pathology form. So if any of my clients are watching this, you'd know that I'm always like nitpicking and like fine-tooth combing, is that the right thing? Fine-tooth combing your blood tests. Yes. Does any of these stand out to anyone? Write to me, let me know if you have had these checked and if something's been wrong before. Super common that things get missed in generic, like if you're just going and getting your full blood count and your liver function test done, it's just not enough. We can definitely tell things from that and I would be able to, interpret things. But if we want to really do comprehensive bloods, it's so important. So important. So number 3, focus on your gut health every day because your gut health I talk about the gut kind of like the tree roots. And so if the tree roots are healthy and they're getting fed the right things and they have the right soil, then everything is going to grow nicely from there. But if we're, not tending to the garden, if we're just letting the weeds grow and we're pesticiding it, and then just letting whatever else grow, no fertilizer, all of the above, like what's going to grow? Not much anyway. So it's really important to look after the gut health because this is where everything happens. So your gut is where you absorb your nutrients. So when you take your iron supplement, for example, if you're low in iron, you take your iron supplement, doesn't mean that your iron supplement is going to get absorbed right. So just like when you eat the vegetables, like you're spending heaps of money on your organic produce and you're, cooking beautiful meals. So are you actually digesting that food properly? If you notice symptoms like bloating, reflux, gas, bowel motions, irregular, so you should be going to the bathroom 1 or 2 times a day. If you're going every second day or every 3 days, this is not optimal because you manage your estrogen through your gut as well. So you literally poo out your estrogen. So if you're only going to the toilet for a number 2 every 2 or 3 days, this is a lot of time for all of those toxins to just be sitting in the gut. And because our body is always trying to look after us, you're going to start reabsorbing those toxins and reabsorbing the estrogen. So that's why it's super important to make sure that the gut health is managed. And so when we're thinking about your gut health as well, like I said before, your serotonin is made in the gut. And I'm just going to go to here because this is an interesting one. So you can see the serotonin in the middle, and that one gets converted into your melatonin. And so interestingly, another thing about serotonin is that your serotonin is what helps your digestive tract to move. So your digestive tract is muscles moving all the way along, and your serotonin is what actually helps to move all of that along, which is why people with low serotonin usually have slow bowel motion. So usually low serotonin equals constipation. So using things like 5-HTP can be really helpful. Using B6, magnesium, zinc, these ones are super, super helpful to help with your sleep, with your mood, and with your bowel motions. Really, really good. Really important to have the right forms. Definitely no magnesium oxide, no zinc oxide. We like to have zinc citrate, zinc biglycinate, magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate. These ones are really nice and really well absorbed. B6, you can get it in the form P5P, which is the active B6. And this one is really nice for your mood and really nice for your progesterone as well. So in your gut is where you house most of your immune system as well. So about 80% of your immune system is in the gut. So this is from all of your little good bacteria that are living in there. And so when we're thinking about your immune system, we need to think about what are we feeding those good bacteria. So this is where we can kind of start with looking at the gut health. Are we getting enough fiber? Are we having any fermented food? Are we making our food as easy to digest as possible? Because if you're eating cold food all the time, raw food all the time, gluggy types of carbs all the time, your digestion is not going to be very happy. So think about your digestion like you have a little fire that's burning in there, and we want to keep it alive. So if we're putting cold water, cold smoothies, cold salads, all of these things on it all the time, it's not going to be very happy. And this is also when I find that people start to not absorb their food well, seeing undigested foods in the stool, all of this. So I think that the most important thing you can do is start to incorporate prebiotic fibers, which is using things like psyllium husk, flax seeds, chia seeds, all of these beautiful ones, which are really nice. You can put in porridge, you can make chia seed pudding. These are really beautiful foods to be nourishing the gut. And I suppose when we're thinking about, Charlotte said, this is so commonly spoken about, but where do you start? So I think it depends on what your symptoms are. If it's really affecting your daily life as to what your gut symptoms are doing, which it could be if you have mood problems, if you have hormone problems as well, because we can see how closely linked all of this is. So it doesn't just have to be gut symptoms. So either you can do stool testing to see what's actually going on with your gut bacteria, which is a really nice start. Otherwise, you can start using some, like I said, prebiotic fibers, eating mostly cooked food, eating 3 cups of vegetables a day, drinking 2 liters of filtered water a day, having some apple cider vinegar with your meals. And that's a really good baseline to start with. Slow cooked food, slow cooked stews, bone broth, these types of things. If you could incorporate those ones in every day, then I think you would notice a big change in your gut health, definitely, and your mood and your sleep. Would love to try that out. The next thing that your gut health does is that there's a direct highway between your gut and your brain via the vagus nerve. So the direct link between the gut and the brain helps with things. Well, if it's imbalanced, that's when things like bowel motion irregularity can happen, mood changes can happen. But there's lots of ways that you can start to activate your vagus nerve. So doing things like cold showers can be really helpful to activate the vagus nerve. Doing things like gargling, singing. There's a point right in your ear, that part where people kind of get they get it pierced when they get migraines. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. It's like this little part right here, and you can start to rub that. And that's why it actually helps with the migraines, because it helps to activate the vagus nerve. So you can do that and do it quite kind of firm in there. And it's really interesting to do that while you're doing some deep breathing, like Wim Hof breathing is great for the vagus nerve. So all of these things are super important for the hormones, because remember what I said at the start, this is the tree roots. And if we get the gut health right, then so many things come from that. If you're trying to manage your estrogen, then helping your gut health is number one thing. If you can start to have bowel motions every day, that's literally, with my clients, that is my number one goal first off the bat, is to get the bowel motions happening regularly. So would love for everyone to try those simple steps to begin with. Don't look on the left-hand side, it's kind of a bit too complex. But the right-hand side, important. So remember, those nutrients, super important to get tested. And we can also have foods that are really high in these nutrients as well, which is just a lot of green leafy vegetables. So if you can be having more green leafy vegetables, have a cup of those a day. That's a really good start. So remove the toxic stuff from your home and your skin. This is my number 4 secret for managing your hormone roller coaster. And this can be a pretty big one. So we won't have time to go into full detail about this, but I think that this is just such an important one when we're looking at your hormones. And so did you know that there's over 3,000 unregulated chemicals that are used as fragrances and perfumes in skin products, hair products, cleaning products, those air freshener stuff, basically anything that says on the ingredients fragrance or perfume or natural fragrance or natural perfume, any of those types of greenwashing things that they can do. And did you know that you only have to have one ingredient in the product to be able to, that's organic, sorry, you only have to have one organic product in the ingredients list for you to be able to write on the front of the product that it's organic. So just make sure that you're reading your ingredients properly. It's super important to get this right, because these types of chemicals, some of these unregulated chemicals can be classed as endocrine disruptors or xenoestrogens, which means that it's disrupting your endocrine system, which is your hormonal system, or xenoestrogens, which are things that mimic estrogen in the body. So when we're thinking about this, anything that's going on our skin, I don't know if this percentage is exactly right, but they say about 30% of what you put on your skin is getting absorbed, because remember that. So think about, it's kind of a bit confronting when you think about it. It's like you have your lipstick, right? And so that amount, once you've used that, you've actually you've absorbed at least 30% of it. We probably eat way more of the lipstick, really. Same with anything, foundation, body lotion, all of this stuff. Perfume that you put on, you are absorbing it. And so it's super important to get clean stuff, because these types of endocrine disruptors can increase your estrogen. It's been shown in many, many, many studies to increase the estrogen, increase testosterone, and it just puts more stress on the liver of things that it has to detox, because the body knows that it's not a good thing for it to be having in there. So what does it have to do? Put it through the liver to be able to take it out and metabolize it somehow. So this one's a really good one that you can start bit by bit to start processing in your home. So I usually recommend for you to just start on one section, and then when you run out of something, next time you run out of your foundation or perfume or your cleaning products, just start to shift over to more natural ones. If you would like a guide on doing that, I'll email you all after with what I would recommend, because I've actually written a whole guide all about this and which ones I recommend, and just going into more detail about the specific types of ingredients to look out for, because you can start to know, like, all of the ingredients that are on cleaning products. It sounds like gibberish. Like, you can't understand all of those things, but they do this on purpose, so it sounds like it's a natural extract from cinnamon or something, but it's not. It's a synthetic type of fragrance that they're using. So it's so important to do this. All of these perfumes. So an interesting one to like put it in perspective for you, because these types of, I don't know if I wrote this actually, but these types of xenoestrogens can really affect fertility as well. So it's actually been banned to use perfumes and fragrances in IVF clinics. A lot of the time they ask you to not wear it into the clinic, because they've actually shown that it stops the embryo formation when the embryo is exposed to anything like the synthetic types of fragrances, like in the petri dishes. It's just insane. So yeah, if that doesn't kind of convince you, that was a big wake-up call for me when I found that one out. Yes. So candles are another big one. I've got I don't know if anyone noticed my candle, but I have these beautiful candles. They are beeswax ones. They're called treehouse candles, because a lot of candles are made with synthetic fragrances again. So it's really important. And this one, it smells so nice because it kind of just smells like honey. And they make it in, beautiful quality. It's all local around here as well, but you can buy them online. I definitely recommend that, treehouse candles. And the cleaning products. So yeah, I'll send you the link for the guide if you'd like to have a read of what cleaning products that I would recommend. Ones that actually work, but it doesn't have to be hard. Like, I just use a lot of vinegar, bicarb, and essential oils. That's really all that I use in my home for cleaning. And you can make heaps of different products and your own type of skincare, all of these things that you can use. So yeah, I would really recommend starting to think about what you're putting on, because I heard that the average person, well, female who, uses makeup and all of this thing, we're more likely to do it, walks out with like close to 200 different chemicals on her skin every day. When you think about it, it's like your hair, your makeup, your perfume, your body lotion, your deodorant's a big one. That's all in the guide as well, the brands that I recommend, because I've tried so many things and I know that natural deodorants can be really rubbish. But I've found ones that I really like, including shampoo and conditioner, because I know they can be horrible as well. I've got a beautiful low tox hairdresser that I see who has uses all the brands, and she's taught me, she's kind of like really been crazy about finding all of the right ingredients. And yeah, I looked over them and I love them and I've used them. So I'd love for you to try them out. Does this make sense to everyone? Can you just write yes in the chat box if that makes sense? And if you knew about it, like, have you been on this journey yet? Have you been trialing it yet? Next thing is also, you need to go toxic free for your food. And this includes pesticides and what you store your food in. So I eat pesticides and plastics. So there's so much research around how much pesticides can really contribute to hormonal conditions, and it can have a strong effect with unexplained fertility. So choosing organic produce just for 1 week has been shown to reduce urinary pesticide levels by nearly 90%. So this means that they did a urine sample on the people when they were just eating, supermarket pesticide sprayed produce, And then they did 1 week of organic produce and then did a urine sample and tested the pesticide levels, because you can see it you can test it in the urine. Can't see it. And it was reduced by about 90%, which is huge. That is a huge amount. So a tip that you can use is look up. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Look up Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. So this is a list of the top sprayed pesticide fruits and vegetables. So there's 2 tips. You can use the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 so that you know which things to buy organic. For example, berries are heavily sprayed. So I would only recommend buying organic berries, and you'll notice the difference in the taste, and you can't really wash them off. I know there's like washes for pesticides and all of this, but I don't know. I don't know if I 100% trust that. Not when, you know, fertility is involved in things. I would not want to risk it. So Clean 15 is a list of the ones that they don't really have to use pesticides on, but then also just eating seasonally, because when the vegetables are in season, it's easier to grow, so they don't always have to use so many pesticides on them as well. So eating seasonally, but that means shopping at local farmers markets is a really easy way to do that, because that produce is what's in season most of the time. So that's what I would recommend for your produce. And same with the meat. If you do eat meat, then I would recommend eating organic meat as much as possible, because this is also important, because, you know, they've found that there's been detected pesticides and these types of things in the actual meat from what the animals are eating. So next thing, what you store your food in. So plastics is a BPA in the plastic is very well known xenoestrogen, meaning the BPA mimics estrogen in the body and increases estrogen dramatically in your body. So when you have high estrogen, this can lead to heavy bleeds, painful bleeds, bloating, acne, all of these things. So this includes your water bottle. Just get a glass water bottle. I don't know what this was from, but you can just buy, like sometimes I just go and buy a bottle of a glass water bottle from the shop and then just reuse it over and over. If you can get the nice stainless steel ones, and you can get the nice these types of ones, but just make sure the stainless steel ones don't have the linings in it, because that's all BPA. And you know, I don't know, I'm just a bit old school like that. If something says it's BPA free, but it's still plastic, it's kind of like, but it's still plastic. There's probably other things in there that are just as bad as BPA that we'll find out about in 2 years' time. So I just think, like, how did maybe our great-grandparents, how did our great-grandparents or grandparents maybe, when they were growing up, how did they live? I don't think they were heating things up in plastic in the microwave and drinking out of plastic water bottles and eating pesticide foods. Like, traditional foods just were organic. There was no pesticides used. They just ate seasonally. But now, you know, it's been shown that in the past 50 years, there's been a decrease of sperm quality by 60%. Over 60% decrease in sperm quality. And this can be directly linked to these types of xenoestrogens, pesticides, stress, all of these types of toxins that are coming into our life. But, you know, fertility rates are definitely decreased over the past 30 to 50 years. And this is when a lot of modern day convenience-y stuff has happened. So just think about it. Sometimes it doesn't take that long to just heat your food up on a pan. I have a little kind of saucepan, pan, not a saucepan, a pan. So yeah, everyone's probably just Googling all this stuff now. Like, does my drink bottle have BPA? But yeah, it doesn't have to be expensive. Like you don't have to buy fancy glass water bottle. I think I got this for free with like some kombucha that I bought or something like that. So, just make sure you wash it all the time as well. But really important, for the cookware, I just use a little pan that I have, stainless steel pan, and I just heat up my food, and it takes maybe like 4 minutes for my leftovers to be heated up on the pan rather than heating it up in plastic in a microwave. So I know not everyone has this option when you're at work. I do understand. But if you can do it 50% of the time, that's better than nothing. So if you have to just use microwave at work, but you can heat things up at home in a different way on the pan, then that's better. So, if you can think about, like, it doesn't have to be 100 or nothing. We can do things in increments. So, I don't expect you to go and like flip your whole bathroom upside down and throw everything out, and your whole, fridge. But next time that you go shopping, it's just like all of these little things can be in the back of your mind. Literally, my mum says that it's like she has me on her shoulder whenever she's shopping. In a sarcastic way, she says that, not in an angel way. It's more like I'm the devil on that side. It's like I have the two hats, really. What do you think? So does anyone have questions about this? The remove the toxic stuff from your home, or about your gut health? Let me know before we move on to number 5. Perfumes. Something that I like to use is called Ropo Women, is the brand for the perfume that I really like. I have one, I'm pretty sure it's called Amber or something, and it just has a carrier oil, and then they have essential oils in it. But I find that it's nice and kind of strong, and the carrier oil that they use, I'm not sure what it is. I think it's a mixture of coconut oil and some type of, like, maybe almond oil or jojoba oil that they use, and it's in a little roller, and I should have brought it up, and I just put it on here and put it here, and then I put some on my hands, and I just put it through my hair as well. And I find that it's just so nice. Like, if you're using perfume, normal perfume, think about where you're spraying it. Like, this is your thyroid gland that is so sensitive, this little gland, the start of your whole hormonal system. And if we're just dousing it in perfume every day, it's not a good thing for your hormones, that's for sure. Bianca said, I've been slowly detoxing my products, but you've motivated me to focus more on pesticide side of things now. Yay! Farmers markets is the best. I find that it's like a lot cheaper than trying to buy organic from the supermarket, because everything's in plastic there. It's like this weird thing where they have to put all the organic stuff in plastic for some reason. I have my theories on that. But the farmers markets is great, because then you can talk to them, and it's just so nice. Organic eggs, so much nicer. Cool. There might be organic stores around as well that you could shop at. So number 5, and I think is something that I've really been delving into with my clients lately, is learning the phases of your menstrual cycle. So has anyone learned this before? Does anyone know that you actually have 4 different phases of your menstrual cycle through the month? So I'm so excited to talk about this, because learning the phases of your menstrual cycle can help your life. In the week before your period, where you're like, ugh, can't be bothered. I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit on the couch and, watch Netflix and eat food, basically. And I don't feel like exercising, and I don't feel like talking to anyone or going out or anything like this. Well, the thing is that when you learn about the phases of your menstrual cycle, you can plan your life around it. So this is what I do. Well, I guess it's a benefit because I do work for myself, so I can plan, in this phase. So if anyone wants to know, I'm ovulating right now. So this is a great time to be doing this presentation because I have lots of energy. I'm feeling good. I want to be social. I want to talk. If this was in 2 weeks' time where I'm about to go on my period, I would have probably like postponed it. But, if I didn't know about my phases of my cycle and I scheduled it for then, I probably would have woken up that morning being like, oh, maybe I should just reschedule it. I'm not feeling too good. Maybe they'll get more out of me in a week or so. So, this is the benefit of it, is that you can plan your life, plan your workouts, plan your food, so many different things. So let me show you what I mean. So yeah, so we're literally different in so many ways. Like, how I get my clients say to me all the time, I feel like such a different person in the week before my period. I felt so good previous to that. So you can learn how to use your hormones to your advantage. So I explain it in the seasons. So you have your winter, spring, summer, and autumn. So let's start at the top. A lot of people don't actually know that menstruation, which is your period, day one of your period is day one of your cycle. So first day of your bleed is actually day one of your cycle. So this usually goes for day 1 to 6. So not everyone has a 28-day cycle. Remember that. So sometimes people's periods will be longer, sometimes they'll be shorter, and they'll have a longer spring phase, or they'll have a longer autumn phase. And this can be totally normal. The main thing to be able to track this the best is to get a temp drop, that thing I showed you that tracks your ovulation. Because when obviously, when you have your period, you can say today's day 1, but we don't all know when our ovulation is. So summer is your ovulation, when you're releasing an egg. And so when you release the egg, your temperature goes up. So your basal body temperature goes up. So this is tracked on the temp drop overnight, and it gives you your lowest is your basal body temperature. So then what that means is that when when you're ovulating, then when your summer is, and when your spring is, and when your autumn is, because that, cool, I'm ovulating day 15, and then I have my period in exactly 2 weeks from then. So that whole 2 weeks is this whole autumn phase. So when we're thinking about your winter phase, menstruation, so what this means is that we are hibernating. So winter, we're hibernating, we're eating warm, easy to digest foods. We're not really being that social because we're literally hibernating. We are upping our food a little bit because we need to be nourishing ourselves. We're, not being too social, not trying to complete all of the to-do list either. And then when we get into the spring phase, this is when, so this can be anywhere from day 6 all the way up, sometimes longer. If you ovulate late, this can be longer than this amount of time, but generally around day 7 to day 13, it's called your follicular phase. So this is when your estrogen is high and your progesterone's low. Estrogen and testosterone is rising. So that means that you're starting to get more energy. There's actually been studies that have shown that people can lift heavier weights in your follicular phase. So people were getting more PBs in their weights training in the follicular phase compared to any other phase of their cycle, which I thought was so cool. So this is best for doing strength training. And, you can do some cardio in this time as well. Eating lighter foods, but definitely, if you're training more, definitely keep up your food intake. But this is where you can start being more creative, and you can start to be doing some writing some lists of things to do that you want to get done later in this phase. So more towards follicular ovulatory phase is when you'll be really actioning. So spring phase is all about that, like literally picture spring, like all of the flowers blooming, everything's happening, everything's nice, you feel good in your body. Usually, you don't have fluid retention, all of these nice things. Ovulation phase is, so think about ovulation, you're releasing the egg. Also remember that in the 4 or 5 days before your ovulation is where you're most fertile. So that means testosterone up and libido usually goes up. This is when you'll notice changes in your cervical mucus as well. So you should be noticing the changes in the cervical mucus. Not everyone is the same. So you might notice that there's no cervical mucus here, then you're getting some here. You might notice that here it becomes more watery compared to earlier in the phase where it might be more creamy. It's super interesting. So the cervical mucus changes to help the sperm be able to move through everything easier. We need to help the little spermies. So ovulation, that's when you're starting to release the egg. This is where you have the most energy. You're feeling the best in your mood. You're feeling great in your body. You're, like I said, having a good libido, feeling good mentally, feeling good, energized, all of these things. Then when we go into the autumn phase, so after you've ovulated, so your egg will sit in there for about 24 hours. And then it's like, bye-bye, you've had enough time. Sorry, sperm, not this month. And then that's when the egg starts to break down. It can't be fertilized anymore. And then that's when your estrogen drops off and your progesterone starts to rise. So that's where you'll be going into more of your chilled out, kind of cool, calm and collected, kind of like going back to the cave a little bit. So your autumn phase is like autumn, we don't really have it in Australia, but the leaves falling off, that type of thing. So progesterone should be getting higher. And then this is when you should be starting to not be doing so much weight training, more gentle exercise in this phase. So think more gentle Pilates. I would say more gentle yoga as well would be nice. Walking, swimming, these types of things, more gentle, less resistance, less cardio happening in this phase. Same within the winter. So when we're thinking about the luteal phase, this is usually the longest phase of the cycle. Everyone's like, why can't I have ovulation phase for longer? And I get it. The interesting thing, we won't have time to go into it today, but the interesting thing is that some people cycle with the moon as well. So sometimes you will get your period either on the full moon or on the new moon. So this is something that you can start tracking as well. When you do get your period, you can have a look at the moon. If you can't see it or you don't know how to know what the moon looks like, just look it up. I just type in moon cycle on Google and it will tell you where you're at on the moon cycle. And it's really interesting to learn about how you can be cycling with the moon, because the moon has approximately a 28-day cycle as well. So, we're not, as females, when you're menstruating, when you have a menstrual cycle, if you're not on contraception, this doesn't happen on contraception, only when you have a natural menstrual cycle. So when we're having all these changes, in our daily life, usually most people, go to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You're expected to do similar tasks on those particular days. Yet from this week to this week, you can be a totally different person. So this is why it's important to be planning your social, if you normally see your friends like every night after work, or you usually go and do exercise every night after work, it might be important to just think about, for the next month when I'm on my period, I'm actually just going to stay home and do some stretching on the floor and maybe go for a walk with the dog. I'm not going to be going to HIIT training. I'm not going to be going and trying to do PBs on these particular days. So it's really cool when you can start to learn about what's happening with your cycle and how you can actually optimize this. Does that make sense? I don't want to kind of rush it too much because it does deserve a lot of attention to be able to learn all about it. But let me know in the chat box what you think about that. So remember, you might not have a 28-day cycle, you might have a 25-day cycle, you might have a 35-day cycle, which is okay. You can have, I think that a normal cycle can go for 26 to 32 days. If it is shorter than 26 days or longer than 32-day cycle, I think that there's some hormonal imbalance going on. Yeah, super helpful to work with our cycle rather than against it. Yeah, awesome. Glad you like it. So I'd love for everyone to start just taking note of it. And, if you've got a diary or a calendar that you can start syncing, and, if you track your period on an app, if you're going to get a temp drop, I would really recommend starting to just think about it and think about, what your cycle is actually doing and how you can work with it rather than hating your cycle and wondering like, oh, 2 weeks ago I was like lifting so well at the gym and, doing so well at work and doing so well at uni. And now I just feel like doing nothing. So instead of, putting yourself down, you can think, oh, it's actually because I'm in my winter phase. So of course it's going to be like that. And, if you have a partner that you want to, if they're like annoyed at, oh, you said you wanted to do this social thing, now you don't want to, talking about what phase your cycle is in can actually be really helpful for them to be aware of how you're feeling. Kids as well. It's interesting to tell them as well. Cool. Yeah. So you've probably been connecting with a lot of these things that I'm talking about. So something that I have been actually writing is a book all about the phases of your menstrual cycle. So it's on pre-sale at the moment. So I'm going to email all of you actually, let me just see if I can do it. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to show you this because I wonder, let's see if this works. Oh my gosh, I think it worked. So that's a link for the ebook if you're interested to learn more about it. But I'll send you the link after this session as well. It will be in the email with the replay of this if you feel like watching it again. But I go into a lot more detail about all of those phases of your cycle. So some questions that I got before this webinar that I just wanted to answer for people. And if you have any other questions, pop them in there as well. But how long can it take to get my hormones back on track? I would say at least 3 months of work on your hormones is important to be able to get things happening. Of course, it depends on, it's just like if you have an iron deficiency, if you are super duper deficient, then it's going to take a lot longer to get those levels up than someone who's just a couple of points under the reference range. So same with the hormones, depending what's going on, but usually at least 3 months of solid work is a good amount of time to see some good changes. What if you're still on the pill? So if you are still on the pill, that's cool. If you want to come off it, that's something I help people with all the time. And that's because when you can support your body before you come off the pill, it's much more easier to prevent getting any post-pill acne, post-pill PCOS, losing your period, all of these things. So yes, definitely don't wait to come off the pill before you start seeing a naturopath or start doing some of this work. It's really important to do that first. I definitely see a difference between people who see me before they come off the pill, and then people who come off the pill, get the acne, then have to see me after to fix it. So it's just so much easier to do it beforehand. How do I know if a naturopath is right for me? Well, honestly, a lot of people come to me after they've tried other things. So whether they, like I said before about that case study client that I had initially. So, you know, she tried to see the doctor, she tried the pill, she tried supplements online, she tried all of these things. And if you're not getting the right answers, if you're not getting the right support, if you're not getting the right coaching, I think that it's more than just, you know, writing out a script and then see you in a month's time. The way that I support my clients is very different to that, and super important to be involved in the goal setting process as well. So if you are interested in seeing me, which I've had a few messages on here, so just book a free discovery call with me. Let me just send you the link for that. I'll just put that in the chat for you. That's the link. Oh, oops. I think I just sent that to one person. There we go. That's to everyone. So someone asked, I'm wanting to book a consult with you. Do you recommend getting blood work before seeing you? No, because there's probably more that I would want you to get done. So usually after I understand what's going on with you, then I'll be able to figure out exactly the right testing for you to get done. And then we'll be able to get that done afterwards. So there's still symptomatic treatment that we can do to just get things happening and get all of the treatment going on. But definitely, yeah, let's just get the consult going and then we can figure out what you need to get done. How cute does Cushy look in this photo? Look at his paw, like folded over like that. So cute. He was so little, such a little fluff ball. Okay, I hope that answered everything. So if you guys would like clarification with anything, if you'd like to know more about the ebook or more about the free discovery call with me, feel free to send me a message. More than happy to have a chat with you. Send me an email, send me an Instagram message, however you like. And yeah, I really hope that you learned something tonight. Yeah, please let me know if you need any extra help afterwards. You're welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time. And if you're watching on the replay, thank you so much for taking the time to watch as well. And yeah, I can't wait to see you either for a consult or on another one of my webinars, because I do like to do these every couple of months to keep everyone in the loop with all the things that I'm learning and I'm focusing on and that I'm finding is really helping my clients. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. And yeah, have an amazing night.